There we go. There it is.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to episode number 58 of Mirrorless Minutes, and it is definitely a packed house. We're totally stoked to have on return guest, Mr. Frank Smith, and first time. This is like his hazing, I guess. So we're welcoming Peter Baumgarten. He's coming in here from the wilds of Canada, as it were. Welcome, you guys. Glad to have you on tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jamie, Mike, and nice to be with everybody, including Frank there.
Yeah.
I like how was the including Frank part. I'm not sure how to interpret
it. Well, it's their show, Frank.
Yeah. Well, it's great. Now we're international tonight too. I like that.
Right on.
Yeah.
You know?
I'll be the foreigner.
Right.
Yeah. You don't sound like it. So
no.
You're going to have to do some convincing. So I guess I just want to start off the show first. For those who might not be aware of who we have on tonight, which I don't know how that would even be possible, but if it were possible, I suggest you check out the show description. I've got links to both of their websites, so you can check it out and listen to us talk, or you can check out their websites after the show. But two incredible photographers, and very lucky to be affiliated and associated with those guys. So I'm, again, glad to have you guys on. And I guess Mike and I are probably just a little curious, what have you guys been up to lately?
Yeah.
Exactly. How about if we start off with the new guy on the show? We'll start off with Peter, just because we're going to throw him right into this, sink or swim. So what's new, Peter?
All right. Well, thanks, Jamie. It's been a busy couple of weeks. I just got back from Unique Photo in New Jersey, did an event down there with Eric and Brian. Had a huge number of people come to talk to me, and of course those guys as the tech reps, especially about the new EM1 Mark II. Yeah. I gave a couple of different presentations there. The classes were quite full, met a lot of new people, but also because New Jersey was fairly close to where we'd been in New York and also to Pennsylvania, I actually saw quite a few familiar faces as well. So that was really cool. And the timing was perfect because I'd just flown back from Vancouver Island, was out there for a little over a week doing some shooting, but also visiting two of my kids. So that was great. And they are also being inundated with the snow that we're getting. And I think the last time they had snow where my son lives was 3 years ago. So,
wow.
But it's been a really busy fall with photographically speaking, that's for sure.
Yeah, that Unique Photo is nice. I did one presentation last year about this time, and boy, it was packed. I mean, everywhere you turned out there, they really packed the houses and especially the classrooms. It was a lot of fun.
It was great. Yeah. I mean, it was incredibly well attended. I think I had about 75 people in my one large class and maybe about 40 in the other one.
Yeah.
Did it for the Friday and the Saturday, flew back on Sunday. But there is a lot of talk about the EM1 Mark II, and they were literally flying off the shelves because on the first day of the event, they got a bunch in and they were gone fairly quickly.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
So you've literally traveled from one side of the continent to the other in such a short period of time.
In a matter of a few days, yeah.
Wow, that's something else. So what did you speak on at Unique?
My first presentation, I call it by path or paddle. Anybody who follows my work recognizes that I do a lot of outdoor stuff, and I love hiking, and I love canoeing and kayaking. So it's my first presentation was about outdoor photography, astrophotography, threw in some wildlife because I've definitely been shooting a little bit more of that. Going to share some of the bird photos that I've been taking. Huge interest in astro work. Spent a lot of time on that. My second day on Saturday was what I call photography for the extreme enthusiast. Like a couple of people in our group, this isn't how I make my living. I'm a high school teacher and a university instructor in my full-time job. So for me, I consider myself an enthusiast, but a highly addicted one, a very extreme enthusiast. So a lot of it is just sort of generalist stuff, some experiments that I do, some of the photo projects that I do, and sort of basic techniques on how to bump up your photography to the next level.
Very cool.
That
So I'm
is
sure
cool.
people are excited to get. I would like to actually see the by path or paddle.
Yeah.
I think that would speak quite a bit to me. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Maybe one of these times I'll have to actually make it to see something that you present on.
Well,
Yeah.
that'd be great. It's very cool to be able to present with some of the other guys. I mean, Frank and I and Tracy were at PPE along with John Sterling Ruth, and I mean, it's exciting to be there amongst the crowd, but it's even more exciting to sit there with your colleagues and watch them present and see the amazing work that they have to offer to the photographic world. Usually when we go to the events, of course, you guys know this, you're usually, flying solo on these things.
Right.
I mean, we get lots and lots of support from the Olympus tech and sales reps there. But as far as the other trailblazers and visionaries, we're usually all alone.
Yeah.
So it's great when you can present. Now, Jay Dickman was there presenting, but he was presenting for Lexar, and he happened to be coming in just as I was presenting, and then I had to leave right after. So I never actually got to see him, but he was also there this weekend.
No, but I would agree with you, Peter. I think it's fun being able to see each other, and because we don't normally have an opportunity to hear each other's presentations. So at PPE, I have to agree that was a lot of fun. Getting the chance to see everybody else's presentation.
Yeah, for sure.
So what have you been up to, Frank?
Yeah.
Well, fall is always the busiest time of the year for me, and like Peter mentioned, there's a lot of things with Olympus that's been going on. PPE and a program that you guys are familiar with out of Chicago. I was invited to participate in out of New York, same group that you guys are involved with, and that was a fun experience. And did several workshops. You guys probably know I do a fair amount over at Grand Central Terminal, and we took a group over there, and just it was a fun few days with those guys. And just prior to that, I got back from Morocco, and anxious to show a couple images from that trip. But it's just been going crazy, and finally, I think right about this time, I think I have about 2 or 3 weeks off, so it's kind of nice. I'm going to try to enjoy the holidays. So it's been busy, but it's been a fun busy.
So yeah, just your normal trip to Morocco, right, Frank? Yeah.
Everybody can relate.
We're gonna go to Chicago next week, and then maybe Morocco.
So have you done anything exciting, Frank?
Yeah.
No, that was a pretty amazing trip. So
I imagine so. I'm looking forward to tonight hearing about it. Actually, I don't know, Jamie. You think there's going to be any room to talk about the EM1 Mark II? I don't know. Maybe
EM1 Mark II. Has anybody heard of that?
Yeah, I don't know.
I know it's pretty amazing. The amount of feedback everybody's been getting, on Facebook and Twitter and just everywhere. I mean, geez, the emails that come in daily about that camera. So I know all of us have been pretty busy with that. Maybe we should just take a few minutes and kind of talk about
Probably
where we're at with that camera. Like what your impressions are so far. We'll want to lead off with Peter again.
Oh man, where to begin? It is a total game changer.
Yeah.
I mean, I was one of the first people to get one. I've had it since July. It's totally blown me away in terms of what I'm able to do with my photography. It's re-inspired me in many different ways. Just the speed that camera can deliver in autofocusing, in its shutter speed, right, up to 60 frames per second with the silent electronic shutter. It just feels great in your hand as well. The image quality is second to none. When for anyone who went to the launch event, I mean, just people often ask about, well, how large can it print? It's a micro four thirds sensor. Well, a few of us had backdrops at the launch event there in New York. My backdrop was 8 feet high by 20 feet wide.
Yeah.
I mean, it's billboard size.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was really anxious to see what that would look like when I finally got there. And I walked right up to it as close as I could get. And, I mean, no pixelation. Beautiful work, right? So it's a really remarkable camera. I do a fair amount of astrophotography, and I've also been impressed with the low noise delivery on that. You know, it's a beautiful piece of craftsmanship, and it really helps to elevate my art.
Yeah.
Well, to dovetail on what Peter said, I'm pretty stoked about it because, as you guys know, I do a fair amount of exhibit work periodically, and with the EM1, the first model, I've been using making imagery 48 by 36, and I can only imagine what my size options are going to be now with this increased sensor in there, the additional 4 megapixels.
Right.
But the thing that really amazes me is the noise or the lack thereof. And you guys know when we were up for the launch shooting some of the scenes in New York at night, 6400 ISO. So, I mean, I'm just blown away.
Yeah.
But the other nice piece of news that just came out this past week is, you know, we've been shooting primarily JPEG because Adobe hasn't had the profiles yet, and they now have that. And I went and brought some of the images back in that I had done just in JPEG before and looked at them now in the RAW format. And I am absolutely blown away with the quality of these images. And like Peter said, this is clearly a game changer. And, you know, people that might not have pursued this before in the past because of some speed issues and so forth, there is absolutely no reason now that you can't be more than satisfied with the speed performance on this thing. And the auto tracking, oh my gosh, I mean, that is just mind-blowing how accurate it is. And one of the images I'm going to share tonight is a picture of actually my granddaughter moving through the frame, and a whole series of them that in the past it would have been maybe a little bit more of a struggle to get, but now I'm able to pop these things off without any issues. So, you know, there's so many things, and, you know, I could go on, and I know Peter's touched on them, and you guys have too already, but it is, you know, Peter's correct with saying this is a game changer.
Yeah,
couple of comments. If I can just throw in a couple of comments that I heard at Unique Photo. Frank was just saying, you know, noise. Well, of course, he's talking digital noise, but even just how quiet the camera is. Of course, you know, we were in a fairly loud environment there, but one of the guys picks up the EM1 Mark II, and he begins shooting with it. He says, I can't hear the camera. I said, the mechanical shutter is so quiet now. There are often times where I don't even need to move it into the silent electronic shutter mode if I'm shooting wildlife, because it is so silent. You know, that alone is quite remarkable. And then we had several people there who said, you know, with all the reviews that I'm hearing and seeing online from this camera, they came over, they wanted to have one final look at, you know, actually pick the model up in their hand. They said, I'm dumping my Nikon stuff, or I'm dumping my larger full frame stuff, because this is, you know, I'm not taking it with me anyway. It's too big.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, Olympus has been cutting edge with the compactness of their bodies and the fact that they're weather sealed. Can I just tell you guys a quick story that happened out in BC this past week, if we've got the time?
Yeah.
Of course.
I mean, I've always been thrilled with how weather sealed this camera is. Well, I've grown up around the Great Lakes my entire lifetime, so I'm quite familiar with being around water. But I'm not so familiar with tides, because we just don't have them here. So the one morning I was out shooting the sunrise near Nanaimo, BC, and I had 2 camera bodies going. I put one of them down so that I could catch this beautiful sunrise. It looked like a forest fire on the horizon, and I run a short distance up the rocky beach that I was at, and begin firing, and I'm there for about 10-15 minutes shooting, and then I go back to pick up my camera bag and the other camera that I put down. There was nobody else around, so I wasn't worried. Well, I'm searching all over the place. I'm looking here, I'm looking there. A full 10-15 minutes go by, and I still can't find my camera. I figured somebody had come out of the bush to take it. Well, I looked down right not only at the shore, I look in the water, and there's my EM1 Mark II, 2 inches in the water, and my camera bag's about 4 inches in the water. Everything's completely soaked.
Oh, wow.
Oh no!
I mean, a state of panic erupted in my head, but I quickly grabbed it, shook it off. It's been firing, no problem whatsoever. I mean, I dried it off and so on, but that thing is a tank.
Oh yeah,
Right.
that's awesome.
And I had the 300 millimeter on it too, right?
Oh,
So, I
geez.
mean, they are totally weather sealed.
Yeah, unlike your pants at that moment. Wow. Yeah, that'd be pretty nerve wracking.
That's right. That's right. I had to go change right after that.
Wow. Well, it's testament right there to the weather sealing, without a doubt. I mean, I know we've all put it through crazy paces, but
Mhm.
I think you've probably definitely taken the cake with that one.
That was not intentional, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I was glad to hear Frank mention noise, because I know we put a lot of focus initially on the speed of the camera. The improvements in the
Mhm.
autofocus are just it's a revolutionary change for the system. It's not an evolutionary change in my mind. And then things like Pro Capture, which just add more to the speed of what you can do with that camera. But I think like one of those unsung heroes is the noise handling of that camera. And the other one, and I agree with what Peter said, it's quiet. I've seen, like press situations recently, I mean, politics is constantly on TV. It's annoying, but
I know.
when you
It's
see-
amazing.
you can't even hear
Clicking
anybody
the
talking.
shutters.
It's so noisy. I'm thinking, good Lord, someone in the federal government needs to get a hold of Olympus and say,
I know.
what? I think we're going to change systems and require everybody to shoot with Olympus, because
Yeah.
you could have an army of people shooting with cameras and not be drowned out. Like it sounds like machinery going with the Canons and Nikons.
Yeah, it sounds like they're being shot. But I will say, both things that everybody's talking about, what that is attributable to me for the whole piece of this camera is just the detail. I mean, I saw it with the Pen F, knocked out with the detail on the Pen F, and this again is taking it just a whole different level with the EM1 Mark II. I mean, it's such detail in every piece. This makes it anybody that's held back from changing now. Cancel your chiropractor appointments. You won't need them anymore. They're going to go lighter. Get the darn camera and start working. That's all I say.
DSL arm.
Yeah, that's right. I'm telling you. I mean, that's exactly how I feel.
So everybody that watches the show, I think, looks forward to seeing images shared, probably not by Mike and I so much because we do it constantly, but to have guests on who are capturing incredible images. I mean, both of you travel and see a lot that most people probably don't get to see. So if we could kind of step into doing some image share, I think that would be cool.
Yeah, it'd be excellent.
Awesome. Who would you like to go first?
Well, we've been sticking Peter with everything, so we'll give it to you. How about that?
All right. Can I do a screen share here? So if you'll bear with me 1 second.
All right.
Mhm.
And hopefully we get this correct. Bear with me. All right. Are you seeing an image from Morocco?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. Nice.
Well, a little bit of, I'll give you a little bit of story on these and a little bit of maybe technical aspect of it as I go through. This is pre-EM1 Mark II. So this is EM5 Mark II in a town called Chefchaouen in Morocco. And it's absolutely amazingly gorgeous, this town. And there's alleyways all over the place that are very similar to this, and just putting people in the right position. I stood there, for a while until this gentleman got comfortable, and at one point he's actually motioning me to come over because he wants to see the imagery. So we exchanged some kind of pleasantries, if you will, and he was very grateful to see the photograph. So this is again typical of a lot of the style that I do with some of my international travels. And let me take you to this next one here. We searched for quite some time to find a model that might be able to help us in this area, because the women there are very tentative about them taking pictures, and we struck out. We're not able to find a model, and the place we were staying at is this little. It's really like a home converted with 8 rooms, and the receptionist there, or whatever her primary responsibilities are, she's the one who tried to help us find somebody. And the long and short of it, she struck out. And at one point I said, well, how about if you do this? And she said, Okay. And she says, as long as we get up early, because the elders don't necessarily like it. So we positioned her in a few spots in and around the town, and the beautiful blues there. And you can see how that's all naturally lit, just from the light coming in there. And just very, very happy with the results. And I've got several thousand more of these, but these are a couple that I thought I'd share with.
Beautiful.
Yes. This next image, I've shot the Brooklyn Bridge many times before, and actually I think with quite a few of you guys, but this last trip up there, I typically use it in a just a slow shutter, and I wanted to do this in live composite just to see what kind of effect I could get. And this is probably about 2 or 3 minute live composite shot. And what's interesting is the different colors. I mean, it looks like I enhanced it, but if you look closely, you'll see the X-bracing from the bridge in the shadows of the water. And, you know, again, things like that you wouldn't be able to achieve otherwise, or you blow the highlights out.
Exactly.
This was shot with the pen. Again, this is all pre EM1 Mark II. So let me move you to this next image. And you guys can relate to this because I think quite a few of you were with me. This is the Oculus in New York, and this was shot during the new announcement. And I'm a wide-angle shooter, as you can tell just by this image here. This was a JPEG, and I did very little enhancement to it. This is shot with the 7-14. And Peter knows we've had this conversation. This is my favorite lens. I love wide angles. I love to exaggerate this, and I do a fair amount of architectural work. And my objective here was to position the Freedom Tower right in the middle of where the wings of the Oculus come about, and yet still show you all of the other structures that come about. And then inside the Oculus, this is just a graphic element that I wanted to shoot straight up. The challenge here is being symmetrical, and with a wide angle lens, I will tell you, and for those of you that use wide angle a fair amount, you'll know that this is a very difficult task. And again, this was not my first shot, and it's a little difficult to see, but if you look very closely, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but right in the lower third is a peak of the Freedom Tower coming through the image. I did give this a little bit of a high key effect because I wanted the bright white to come about, if you will. So let me take you to again from that trip in New York. This is 6,400 ISO with the new EM1 Mark II. And I will challenge you to find some noise in there. And for me, this is just amazing that the equipment has this kind of capability to produce. And it has just been a joy to be able to push ISOs to that level and not have to worry about sacrifice in that area. And again, this is with my favorite lens, 7-14. And just very little post-processing on this, because this was processed in a JPEG. And staying with that same theme. By the way, that's St. Patrick's Cathedral, if I didn't mention that. And here it is on the interior with black and white. And I like geometric shapes. And again, this is one of those where, again, worked hard to get it positioned just right. Again, EM1 Mark II, 6,400 ISO. And the 7-14 on this lens. And then, Peter, you were with me, I think, when I shot this.
I certainly was. Yeah, you were in my way. That's my photo.
That's what he was trying to get.
That's a great shot.
It was.
But yeah, you and I were together that afternoon. It was a fantastic spot.
It was a great opportunity, and I like to do a lot of black and white work, as you probably are noticing from some of these images, and particularly since we didn't have the raw profile with Adobe, or the JPEG with the monochromatic setting in the camera, and just absolutely amazing. And if you'll look around the image, the detail on this thing is again, for me, just amazing. And at the risk of being redundant, can you guess which lens I used on this?
Can I ask you a quick question about that
Sure
shot?
can. Absolutely.
So one of my favorite things is customizing the mono profile. Is that straight mono, or have you adjusted any of the settings in the mono for
like the
that?
sharpness or contrast?
Well, let me give credit where credit is due. This is really kind of a Jamie setup here, because I have it on the contrast 2 points up on it, and then I made this a preset, and that's in the mono with the 2-stop up on it, and I have that saved as a custom setting now, and I shoot this probably the majority of the time when I'm doing black and white.
Yeah,
but
cool.
Outside of that, that's really the only adjustment to it.
Yeah, and just to speak real quickly on that EM1 Mark II, but now with the highlights and the shadows, you can adjust something even a bit further in that monochrome setting, because I know we were messing with that in Chinatown.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's great, Frank. I love that shot.
It's fun. And what you don't see is just further to the left, there is another photographer who was actually setting them up. But Peter and I were taking full advantage of his work there, and snuck in and got a couple of shots. This next one is just a few weeks ago. This is with the EM1 Mark II and the fisheye. And this is the library at Lehigh University. And I'm, again, happy with the geometric shape on this thing here. And I worked carefully to keep the lens or the camera position evenly level so that there wouldn't be a lot of distortion with it. And in this case, it actually worked out really nice. I was pretty happy with the results. And this next image,
the symmetry is incredible on that.
Yeah, I was happy with that. I was absolutely happy with
College
that.
libraries are the best.
Oh, yes.
Frank, you said that's at the Lehigh University?
Yes, sir.
The same time that we went on that photo walk.
This is the same place, and
because I don't recognize that.
It's the same place. 1 week later, though,
okay.
I went back up because I, with due respect to all of my peers and counterparts out there, I didn't want them in the shot, so I wanted to go back up and shoot this again. So this is the same place, Peter, but without the people, of course.
Beautiful image.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. This next one is, so you may have seen me post this on Facebook the other day. This is, I titled this "Where the Trolls Live." This is just above Lehigh University in an area that has a sculpture park above this, and the bridge caught my eye, and so did the colors. And of course, now those colors are all gone. But again, this is with that favorite lens of mine. Am I sounding redundant on that? Nope. Well, let me change it a little bit. Let's give the Pen F a little bit of love.
All right.
This is the Trans-Siberian Orchestra about 2 weeks ago. And question would be, why the Pen F? You're not allowed to bring any professional grade cameras into the arena where this was shot. So if you have a Pen F and you strip off the lens and you put it in your wife's purse, they opened it up, looked at it, and said, okay, go ahead. Where anybody else who's trying to get in there with any kind of professional grade photography equipment was denied access. And guess who's the only one who came out of there with a whole series of images? Of course, yours truly. This is the 14 to 150, the Mark II on this with the Pen F, and just really happy with the results of that. And I got 1,000 more images that I won't bore you with on that. I'm nearing the end here, I promise. This image is at the Easton State Theater. I do a workshop here every year for them, and I've shot this many times in the past at many of the other workshops, but this is the first time I did it where I didn't do HDR and put a series of images together. This, again, 6,400 ISO, and I would not have been able to capture this a few years ago, and I am, again, blown away by the lack of noise and the image quality that this thing's producing. It just has blown my mind. Let me change it up to a little bit of something more fun, and something that I talk about more than I probably should, is that's my granddaughter there, my wife and dog in the background. But the way I captured this is, you guys talked briefly about the Pro Capture on the EM1 Mark II, and had this thing set at 60 frames per second, and had the fun choice of picking which one out of those 60 plus images I wanted to use. And again, the beauty here is that you have so much flexibility now, being able to be selective with an image. And I'm doing a blog post and a kind of tutorial on how to accomplish this, and that will be available very shortly. But again, because of the built-in Pro Capture, what I did is I simply set this thing up and did a whole series of shots, and then in post-processing, merge these together, masked them out, and have a whole series of my granddaughter running across that bridge. And you can see at the tail end, she actually caught her foot on the hole and did a nosedive. I didn't include that image in this, but stay tuned on this thing here. But again, the whole point to this is that new flexibility, new options available as a result of this new technology that we have to work with. Beautiful shot and a great memento too.
Oh, thank you. Really neat.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Second last image here. One of the things I like to do is abstract, and this just happened to be a perfect day in Frederick, Maryland, about a week or two ago, where this is nothing more than a reflection into a small canal, and the sky was as blue as could be, and the reflection worked well. And anyway, this is the sort of thing that sometimes captures my eye. And last but not least, at the same location, here's a little bit more of an artsy type of image. And it's fun how you have to look at that for a moment to see what's actually going on there.
Which one is which? Yeah,
yeah, exactly. The shadows, of course, there. And in the monochromatic preset mode that I have on the EM1 Mark II. So that is the last of my images. So I'll jump back to the regular screen here, and I guess pass this baton on to Peter.
Yeah. All right, I'll take it. Thanks. Let me do the same. I'll share mine here.
All right. So one of the viewers chimed in. Well, a couple of them actually. David Bostador just wanted to say hi to both of you guys. And,
hey, Dave.
Hey, Dave.
And Pat Durr said, "Beautiful images, Frank."
Well, thank you. That's very kind. I appreciate that.
And I guess I probably could have told you guys that. So viewers can go to the YouTube channel and they're watching this live, and they actually have a chat window on the side. So if you see me looking like I'm not looking at what's going on, it's because I'm switching windows and checking on to see what people are commenting. So I'm not ignoring anything.
All right. Well, I'll start my screen share. I did mine in Keynote, so let me know if there is an issue. But here we go. So you should see a black screen right now, and now a great horned owl.
And if you're a great horned owl, then you better.
Okay, then I'll switch back out. I wasn't too sure whether the Keynote would work, but I will go back and do
preview.
No, I got I saved it as an HTML. So it is an HTML. The image quality won't be quite as well, but I got a couple of animations in here that I wanted to show. So you should see an owl now.
Now we do.
All right, great. So back in the summer when I first got the EM1 Mark II, I wanted to do some bird photography. So I went to a conservancy, which is down in the Gravenhurst area, the Muskokas of Northern Ontario, and was able to do a few shots with it. So I've decided to sort of stick with a theme with all of my images. They're all bird photos. It's amazing how many bird photographers are interested in picking up this camera. I had lots of conversations at Unique Photo this past weekend with people who are keenly interested in using this outfit with the 300 millimeter attached for bird photography. So if you look at the settings there, ISO 4000, I know Frank has been talking about the lack of noise in these images, just beautiful, crisp and clear. You can see every single feather on that. It's and just great color. There's absolutely no post to this. That's exactly how it came out of the camera. So did a few shots with the birds fairly stationary. This little owl actually flew off into the bush and I had to go chase it down. We used a 300 in there. So again, fairly low light in there because we were out in a field first. Just the reach of that lens with the EM1 Mark II and just beautiful low light performance here. This is a Harris hawk that I shot. And again, just, crisp, clean, and sharp. so far, the images that I've shown you are, fairly basic. They're portrait images. The birds were stationary, but of course, most people are interested in birds in flight. So this was at our cottage in Northern Ontario. Of course, I like setting up bird feeders on occasion. I've got mine for this winter set up, and we've had a bit of traffic there already. Well, this past summer had some hummingbirds zooming around and was able to capture a few of those. And again, that's not cropped. That's exactly the way the shot came out. No post-processing on this one, and tack sharp on the eye.
What's your shutter speed?
Yeah, I want to know that one.
Can you see the stats in the bottom corner? That was 1/2500th of a second.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
ISO 2000, 1/2500th of a second.
Good to know.
Yeah. For me, this is the photograph that sold me on this camera. Doesn't look like there's a lot of action going on in this shot, right? You see a couple of loons kind of floating in the water. The thing is, I'm shooting this from my canoe.
Yeah.
So I'm bobbing up and down on the water. My wife is in the front, and I'm giving her directions, steer a little bit this way, steer a little bit that way, right? Because this is the shot I wanted. The two were fairly separated at first, and then they got to the point where, I could actually get both the male and the female in the frame at the same time. And because I'm moving around, I mean, all of you guys I know have shot with the 300. I also had the 1.4 teleconverter on it. And with such a narrow field of view, it can be even difficult to find your subject and frame it right. And so to keep it in the frame with the in-body image stabilization and the in-sync with the lens was pretty remarkable. I shot in short bursts. The autofocusing, this is what really sold me on the camera. The autofocusing is amazing. Not only incredibly fast, but incredibly accurate. I think we followed these birds for about 15 minutes. I know that I took well over 500 shots. And when I got them back on my computer, I'd say 95% of them were tack sharp on the eye. I'd never had that kind of success before in my life. I've shot with the EM1. I've got lots of loon photos with it, but this really proved to me that this camera was a game changer. Again, it doesn't look like there's a lot of action in there. It's kind of the story behind the shot that was the selling point for me.
Yeah, most people have a hard time just standing still shooting, much less.
Yeah, it wasn't easy. I mean, the water was fairly still, but nonetheless, the canoe's still bobbing around.
Yeah.
This used the Pro Capture mode. So now here I am back at that bird conservancy, and this Harris hawk had landed out on the grass, and I knew it was going to take off, but I didn't know exactly when. So I engaged the Pro Capture, and then was just ready with my finger halfway down on the shutter release. Right, and for those of your audience that aren't aware of what Pro Capture is all about, it starts to buffer the shots, doesn't write them to the card yet, but it is recording them, internally. And if you press it all the way, it will write those buffered shots down. And I think that's the only reason that I got this image with him staring me straight in the eye. So again, ISO 1600. 1/2500th of a second there.
Beautiful image.
Thanks. And then for a different take, I'm always looking for a slightly different perspective from which to shoot. You see that skeletonized tree in the background. That's where this hawk was sitting. He was sitting on one of those branches prior to this shot. And he comes diving in towards the handler. And I'm actually crouched down in front of the handler. We'd been working together for, a half an hour or so. So the bird was, had become a bit more comfortable with me. So he comes in swooping down. And again, this was using Pro Capture, 60 frames per second, just frozen. And it's really cool to see the whole sequence. I'm only showing you one of the shots here. Frank will recognize this guy.
Oh, yeah.
So I put together a quick little animation. And again, this was using the Pro Capture. So this Birdman in Central Park had quite a few pigeons. I'd say well over a dozen, Frank, that were
Every
flitting
bit of
this way and that way. He was quite a popular man with regards to these pigeons. And so let me just press play here and hope this animation works.
Oh, cool.
So the beauty of this is it's capturing, all of I call pro capture faster than the speed of sight, because there's no way that I could actually see that with the naked eye. It just happens so quickly, right? And then, of course, similar to what Frank was talking about with his granddaughter there, you look through your collection of images then, and you choose the one that you like. And for me, this one where the pigeon in flight has his wings wide open, there's a bit of motion blur in there. That's the one that, for me, that was the keeper. All right. A couple of weeks ago, I was driving down the highway and came across an owl and engaged the continuous autofocus plus tracking. And so I put together this little guy here. Right. So a sequence of shots. And so the tracking is, again, remarkable. We've had continuous autofocus plus tracking for a while now, but I haven't been particularly pleased with the results. Now I'm over the moon with them. I've done some mountain bike races with them. I've done, shooting my dogs. And now this owl shot, it's remarkably accurate, right? Not only with the focusing, but with the tracking. And
the competition's insane. I love it.
Yeah, I know.
And that's it.
All right.
Yeah, you've got definitely everybody's attention that's
I know.
in chat right now.
I know. I'm
these
watching
photos.
the chat.
Well, bird
Going
photography.
crazy.
Bird photography it's not my area of expertise, but it is something now that I'm really interested in expanding into. Right. I mean, a couple of years ago, I'd never taken an astro shot, and now I absolutely love astro. I still don't consider myself an expert at it. Same thing with bird photography, but it is they're a remarkable subject to shoot.
Yeah, it opens up your imagination. It opens up your creativity. I mean, it's that simple. I think I would agree with you on the bird thing. I don't think I was that excited about in the past, but now it's like, whoa.
Well, I threw in the Central Park shot because it doesn't have to be. You don't have to be out sort of in the wilds,
right?
But you can. I mean, sometimes I'm just shooting the seagulls down at the beach because I live fairly close to the water here.
Well, I think to your collective points, the situation with respect to the camera's abilities is that we're no longer limited in anything, I would say, at this point in time.
No.
Whether it be a wedding or a bird photography or everything in between is just absolutely amazing now what options we have available.
Yeah, I think the feature set that's available now to people that are going to jump into a Mark II, I think exactly what Peter said. It opens the doors for any genre of photography. I think it's going to make a lot of genres that people wouldn't have considered before that they thought difficult, easier to get away with shooting now. I mean, the ability to track an animal or a person in motion with these cameras is so good now that I think almost anybody can get out with just a little bit of time behind the viewfinder. They can really start nailing down some good shots.
Right, and then I mean the camera is highly advanced, the most advanced camera that Olympus has ever produced, but it's still simple enough to use that you can grow into this camera for years.
Yeah,
right.
As I was saying to one of the guys at Unique Photo, this is the camera you're getting with the first firmware. Imagine what it'll look like with the second, third, or fourth. I mean, think back to what they did with the fourth firmware in the EM1.
Yeah.
We've got dual quad-core processors in there.
Yep.
I mean, I'm giddy with excitement just thinking what they're going to come up with next and allow me to keep the same body.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's incredible, without a doubt. So I guess we're probably about at like the end of the show. I know Mike wanted to talk about
I'm gonna
a
show
very
Monday.
unique object that he's got in his
Yeah.
room there tonight, and then I'm
We're
gonna.
gonna take it back to analog, I think, in some ways. So check this out. This is an early Christmas present. I had to grab it. My wife got it for me, but I wanted to talk about it tonight. This is from Derek's Story. He's got a show or a store on Etsy called the Film Store, and check this camera out. It's got the Waterford clock in it. He puts in a little Joby tripod holder, and it's it's a working camera. I mean, it's a you can wind it and everything. So it's just a cool. So
That is
believe
amazing.
me, it's probably I'm already working on to get the clock out to put it on one of my old EM1. I'm sure I'll probably figure that out. But it's a cool thing. We'll put a link in the show notes. But it's definitely a conversation piece, and it's good. We go from the future of cameras all the way back, and now we're making clocks out of them. I don't know if we'll ever make a clock out of the Mark II, but
You can take the clock off to replace the battery, or is that how you actually wind the clock?
That's how you wind the clock. Yeah,
The first photo on that roll
The
of film is a
advance.
macro of the inside of a watch.
it is. Yeah, it's a macro. So,
Yeah.
but this is our last show before Christmas.
Yep.
And I think our next show, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about the workshop and the meeting and the stuff that we had to let people in on some of that. But, I think I just want to wish everybody, and I know Jamie will probably reiterate it too, but wish all the listeners Merry Christmas. It's been an amazing year.
Yeah, it has.
And we have one more show before the end of the year, but still been an amazing year for Mirrorless Minutes and the amount of attraction that we've gained, let's say. So, and it's a great time to end the show with you two guys too.
without a doubt.
Really, I'm like the people are commenting. I'm pretty darn jealous now seeing some of those images. I got to get outside and shoot.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel after tonight. I'm like, wow, okay.
Well, I'm definitely appreciative of the invite and being able to spend a Wednesday evening with the three of you guys. And I also wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Mike and Jamie, a Christmas carol perhaps from the two of you?
After the show,
Not likely.
that'll be at the post-show party.
We're trying to gain viewers, not.
We watch them fall off that way.
Well, allow me to say the same to you guys. It very much is appreciated, and joy to be back on the show again. You guys are doing a great job with this, and look forward to seeing the continuing episodes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Frank. Thanks, Peter. We again, we're blessed to know you guys and to be able to consider you and call you, our associates, our shooting partners with Olympus. It's great to have you guys on.
You can use the word friend.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You guys are very, very incredible, dear friends. And
Yeah.
Mike and I are blessed for that, and I think being able to share you guys with our viewers is definitely
Thank you very
a
much.
perk for us.
Thank you.
So I guess with that, we'll kind of close out the show. I just want to tell everybody, just look in the show notes below to find links to Frank and Peter's work and to Mike's very kitschy clock. And until the next show, we will see you guys all later.
Cheers,
All right.
everybody.
See you, everybody.
Bye-bye.